Welcome to this special edition of The Third Dimension. The killing of Ali Abdullah Saleh on December the 4th, 2017 by the Houthis has sent shockwaves in Yemen and across the region and generated a wide range of reactions to his important role in Yemeni politics. As president for 33 years, Ali Abdullah Saleh was the longest serving ruler of Yemen since 1918. His death brought to a grim end the career of a wily politician who combined charisma, duplicity, and brute force to remain a giant in the politics of Yemen for decades. Throughout his career, Ali Abdullah Saleh deftly manipulated the competing demands of Yemen's tribes, politicians, and foreign allies to make himself the country's most towering political figure. Among his main achievements, at least for those who believe Yemen to be a nation, was the unification of the two previous states. His departure has left a tremendous power vacuum, one that has thrown the future of Yemen into question. To discuss this topic, joins me from the United States, فرناندو Kárfjal. Mr. Kárfjal is a former United Nations expert in Yemen and a senior Yemen and Middle East analyst. فرناندو, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for having me.
Okay. If I may take you back to December the 4th, 2017, okay, and even the 2 days before that, by your capacity then as a member of the United Nations panel of experts in Yemen, how did you react to the killing of Ali Abdullah Saleh by the Houthis?
Thank you. Interesting question. To put it mildly, it was a very tense month because let's remember that it wasn't just the conflict between Ali Abdullah Saleh and the Houthis didn't just erupt that week before his killing. It had been ongoing, especially since it began to escalate in August, right before the GPC anniversary celebrations. And the tensions had already been growing, increasing since around March or April of 2017. But definitely the reaction from us and the outside, from the community of analysts, was one where wait and see. Keep in mind that every analyst that wrote about Yemen, that analyzed Yemen, kept calling this a marriage of convenience between Ali Abdullah Saleh and the Houthis. And it was about outliving the conflict, meaning everyone was under the impression that this alliance would last the length of the conflict because it was in both parties' interest to outlive the conflict and then negotiate. Everyone that I talked to in November, the first week of December, expected some sort of peace to come between the GPC al-Mu'tamar and the Houthis. To tell you the truth, no one expected the outcome even the night before Ali Abdullah Saleh was killed.
I see. Okay. Now, again, if I ask the same question, Fernando, nobody expected among international analysts, etc. But within the capacity of the United Nations panel of experts, okay, what was their reaction?
We did. If you look at the panel report in July 2017, then you look at what we wrote in January 2018, it was very cautious, I have to admit. The team was very cautious in the language, even though we had some very serious talks, discussions behind the scenes. It was not, I will eventually say that right about this, but gave the warning to the team, and I said, this ends in one of two ways. This does not end in a peace agreement between the Houthis and the GPC. This ends either with Ali Abdullah Saleh being killed, or Abu Ali al-Hakam and Mohammed al-Houthi being killed.
So it was your own observation, Fernando. It was your own expectation.
That was my own observation, because I was in contact with people in Yemen since the summer, and they expressed their concerns over the escalation of the conflict between the two parties. And to my understanding, no one was expressing any hope of an agreement that would de-escalate the conflict. And we saw what happened in August, just before the GPC anniversary. My good friend Khalid al-Radi was killed in Sana'a.
Yeah. And where were you at that time, Fernando? The question is about you and also the other members in the panel.
So this is, all of this for me is very interesting and very vivid in my memory. I landed in New York the night before the incident, because we had meetings in New York with the UN. I landed in New York the night before, and I had sent a message to the team, and I said, this isn't going to end well. And sure enough, the morning after, when I was in New York, I texted everyone and I said, well, here we go. A whole new era about to begin in Yemen.
Okay. Now, if we just now talk about the legacy of Ali Abdullah Saleh, Fernando, and among one of his main achievements, is unifying Yemen into the Republic of Yemen. Some observers said, the unification of the two previous states, while he is today, and this is Helen Lakna, very senior Yemen author and analyst, she said, while President Ali Abdullah Saleh is today widely blamed for the full integration of the two states in a single polity, it must be recognized that he was the main engineer of the unification. How do you react to this?
Well, Ali Abdullah Saleh's main achievements, let's keep in mind, was surviving the first 6 months of his presidency, right? Within the council. That was his primary achievement, because if we read back the archives from that period, no one expected Ali Abdullah Saleh to survive more than 6 months, just because Al-Ghashmi was killed and Hamdi were killed before him. When it comes to unification in 1990, it could be said that he was the main architect merely because his relationship with al-Bayt and the Socialist Party in Aden were one that hurried the plan for unification, right? We have to keep it in context, and the talks that began in 1989 as the Soviet Union is about to fall. The PDRY, the South, having been for decades within the sphere of the Soviets, was sort of with their back against the wall because they were they were searching for a way out of this collapse of the Soviet Union. We had Syria offering the PDRY money in order to remain independent. We had the Gulf countries divided over this issue of unification, whether the GCC was okay with dealing with one Yemen versus two Yemens. And definitely, we know that al-Bayt had a lot of temptation to stay away from unity. But we also know that Ali Abdullah Saleh leveraged and he really captured the history of the push for unification. So keep in mind, your viewers that are not avid observers of Yemen or have read as much as so many of us have, unification was actually a project since 1967 for the Southerners who fought the independence, right? these individuals, these activists that fought the British for independence of the South, their idea was pan-Arabist. Their idea was for a unified Yemen, and it was Sana'a who hesitated at that time. It was Sana'a who hesitated. So Ali Abdullah Saleh basically, leveraged that history and took advantage, and it's a consequence of history. My last point, had the Soviet Union not collapsed the way that it did, there might have been a different history to tell, because the South would have had other options.
Yeah, okay. Another important issue within the legacy of Ali Abdullah Saleh, Fernando, is his efforts to establish what we call an emerging model of democracy in an area which is surrounded by monarchs, okay? And the New York Times at that time commented on this new democracy in Yemen, saying, okay, Yemen's new democracy juggles with tribal traditions. The question is, how do you assess President Saleh's efforts to push such a tribal society toward a modern democratic state?
That was the focus of my studies back in 2000 when I was in grad school. And that's why I went to Yemen for the first time, to study tribal democracy, the concept of democracy within a tribal society, or the way that tribal custom works, the way that tribes, the decision-making process in the tribes. So I think the New York Times definitely, struck out in that comparison, because Yemen was a very vibrant society environment where a style of democracy could emerge. There are two main events that caused Ali Abdullah Saleh problems with his neighbors. One was the 1999 Summit of Emerging Democracies in Sana'a, the first Summit of Emerging Democracies took place in Sana'a.
Yes.
And then two was Ali Abdullah Saleh's presence at the G8 summit in the U.S. after 9/11, after the New York terrorist attacks. These two events caused great tension between him and Saudi and the GCC, because he was leveraging his relationship with the U.S. At the time, Clinton, and then Bush Jr., President George W. And this was a concern for the neighbors. This was a concern for the neighbors because not only was Yemen the only republic, the only Jumhuriya in the peninsula, but it also, Ali Abdullah Saleh wanted to push it toward democracy. Was the first one to have elections since parliamentary elections in the 90s. First one to have presidential elections, and he was pushing, the GPC were pushing for more representative election. Let's remind your viewers that in 2006, Ali Abdullah Saleh, during his contentious presidential election, he pushed for devolution. He pushed for the project of devolution, meaning instead of the central government appointing every governor in the republic, elections for governors began in 2006. That was the first time. Now we see the route that the legitimate government has gone, done away with all elections and basically appointed everyone, and now we have two governors for each.
Okay. Now, in the same context as you said, okay, all these efforts by Saleh seem to have evaporated with what is happening now. And in the same regard, one Yemen also senior researcher, Adam Barron, okay, commented on the death of Ali Abdullah Saleh, saying, the elimination of Ali Abdullah Saleh from the scene will shake the country for years, if not decades to come. Do you share with Barron the same thing?
I think we've discussed this over the years, you and I, in your program, where the short answer is absolutely yes, right? Because the strong man of Yemen was eliminated without a plan, without a succession plan, without an organized political system that could usher in further stability.
Yes.
He was killed. He was killed during chaos, and further chaos ensued, right?
Yeah.
And we've discussed this over and over. You have two political parties at the moment that are basically fractured, fragmented, the Islah and the GPC.
Yeah.
And you do not have a central figure. President Hadi failed to do so. Khalid Baha failed to do so as vice president. And now Rashad al-Alimi and the Presidential Leadership Council are failing at this. There is no center, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You mentioned since 1918.
Yes.
A little correction in my perspective is since 1911, because Imam Yahya
yeah.
was recognized.
Exactly.
Imam Yahya was recognized by the Sultan, Ottoman Sultan, in 1911, and
Yes.
then 1918 is when the Ottomans leave northern Yemen.
Yeah.
But just with Imam Yahya, he was a central, charismatic, powerful, strong man that lasted until 1948, right?
Yeah.
Ali Abdullah Saleh was basically the same type of figure.
Yeah.
You had Salal, who was similar, charismatic, powerful, a military man, and then you went with Ali Abdullah Saleh, who eventually learned to do this. Let's remember, Ali Abdullah Saleh was very young when he took power. He was 33 years old, I believe,
Yes.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And so he was not expected to survive. So he eventually developed these skills that created a strong man, a strong central figure, obviously, with the triumvirate, right? Sheikh Abdullah Al-Ahmar and General Ali Muhsin.
Yeah.
But to bring back one of some memories here, soon after the 2006 election, I gave a presentation in England at my university in Exeter, where I gave a presentation precisely about this topic, based on 3 portraits, and I think I mentioned this in your program before. 3 portraits of Ali Abdullah Saleh that were placed across near Tahrir Square during the campaign, across from the Chief of Staff's office.
Yeah.
The central figure, the central image, the central picture of this was Ali Abdullah Saleh in a Western suit.
Yeah.
On the left was him in Kabili, in a thobe and a kufiya and a jacket.
Yes.
And then on the other side in military dress, right?
Yeah.
This is the leader that Yemen has had for over a century. An individual that manifests 3 personalities.
Yeah, some others even commented on this, Fernando, of the skill to connect with people, having different roles. Now, if we would like to wrap up this conversation, Fernando, some Yemenis, have become increasingly fragmented, and today they might voice a desire for nostalgic return to the days of Ali Abdullah Saleh. My question is, how do you interpret this desire in the context of Ali Abdullah Saleh's rule?
It's very pessimistic from my point, because on the one hand, many people who were ambitious and wanted to look for democracy in Yemen and wanted a transition to democracy are not asking to go back. Now, yearning for those times of a strong man controlling and managing society. And so it really speaks to the failures of civil society. I mean, you know that I am a strong critic of civil society in Yemen, because in 2011, there were high aspirations, high hopes, high goals, and none had been achieved. And they want, and a lot of activists want to blame the powers that be, whether it's the regional, the Western, or the Yemen political parties. But when you look at civil society in Yemen, you ask, what have you done? Where are you? What are your proposals? Are you just satisfied with these 3-day weekend UN workshops in Amman or Cairo, or in the annual conference gathering a dozen Yemenis to talk. Outside of the halls of power. You are not being included by the UN in discussions, real discussions. And really the images, I was in Sana'a, I was credentialed for the National Dialogue Conference in Sana'a in 2013. I interacted with young youth who are now today analysts in London or DC or New York, and as well as with the heads of political parties like Sheikh Abdullah Al-Ahmad and members of the GPC and Islah, Yassin Noman, all of these figures. And you look now at how President Hadi lost control of the conflict, and you look now at how the Presidential Leadership Council cannot organize itself well enough to deal with this, and you see civil society completely marginalized. It is definitely pessimistic, and they can, they need civil society.
Perhaps we can discuss civil society in an independent show, Fernando. But if I may end up with this, do you see, a rationale for those who yearn to the days of Ali Abdullah Saleh?
You see it, it's needed. They need the chaos to end. Again, we've discussed this. Who is the central figure today? Who can emerge as a central figure? Who can emerge as a person that can rally support across the country in the 21 provinces, across de facto borders? Who is charismatic enough to give the people hope? And what organization are they going to create in order to advance the people's interest and relieve their suffering for over a decade? There's a figure, I think it's beyond time that a figure emerges that can begin to create a narrative, begin to position himself, herself in public as a mediator, as a person with optimism, and a person that can bring hope to all of Yemen, to all 28 million people, and create hope for a better Yemen soon, with no war, with no conflict, and better economy.
With this, we come to the end of this interview. Fernando, thank you so much for your time and insight, and thank you for talking to Yemen Today TV.
Thank you, Doctor.
That's all for this time. See you next week with a new edition of The Third Dimension.